How y'all doing? My name is Paul Womack, also known as Willie Green. I'm a record producer and engineer from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm here to talk about mixing sample-based music today. Sampling is the practice of taking pieces of an already completed song and rearranging them to create a brand new work of art. From a production standpoint, audio that is already mixed and mastered can add to a producer's sonic palette, but from a mixing perspective, these same bonuses also provide a number of challenges. The first challenge is, how do you make it all fit? There's a finite amount of space in the mix, and the sample source likely uses much of it. If the source is a solo flute record, a high-pass filter, remove the record rumble and move on. However, if you're dealing with multiple layers of a soul band, complete with horns and strings that need to mesh with modern synths and vocals, well, you've got some work to do. Looking more closely at the common issues an engineer faces, I'll show you some techniques that can help you better manipulate the sample, allowing it to fit more naturally within the mix. We'll start with the low end. At the risk of generalization, sample-based music usually has big demands for low end. Hip-hop and electronic music often rely heavily on samples and customarily feature a big bottom full of kick drums, sub-basses, and any number of synths. All of these things need to coexist, and the first step to achieving that desired balance is filtering. Low-end management isn't about having a lot of low end. It's about having a lot of good, clear low end where the different elements have plenty of space to breathe. Listen to your sample. Does it really go all the way down to 20 hertz? If not, and probably not, use a high-pass filter to clear out space below your fundamental frequencies. You may not immediately hear a change, but your compressors will react more accurately without the unheard subsonic energy gumming up your headroom, and those 808s and sub-basses will stand out a lot more. This is especially important if the sample came from vinyl, as there's a physical rumble from the medium itself to consider. It's also important to consider the key and arrangement of the song you're mixing. If the producer had a bass line that doesn't quite work with the sample, perhaps there's a kick drum in the sample that's not really meshing with the one intended for the song. Filters are a great tool here too. Be sure to make space for the sounds you want and get rid of those you don't. Listen carefully though, filtering too aggressively can detach your low end from the rest of the song, both frequency-wise and musically. That sample kick drum may actually be part of the overall kick pattern. Once you've identified the bass you want, well, what do you do with it? Assuming the sample is not an open bass line, you'll need to isolate it before processing. There's a wide range of multiband dynamic processors available that you can use to compress, saturate, and affect specific frequency ranges. If more control is needed, or if you really want to enhance the bottom of the sample, splitting the low end will provide much more flexibility. In a DAW system, this is as simple as duplicating the sample tracks and using a low-pass filter to filter out everything except the bass you want to keep. In the analog world, you can simply mult or cross-patch a channel to the next open one and then filter that. Remember though, there's much more to bass than 100 hertz and below. Remove only what you need to. Much of the definition in bass instruments is actually in a higher range of frequencies than you might expect. In addition, you may want to high-pass the original sample track to prevent possible phase issues, but use your ears, don't leave unwanted gaps in your frequency spectrum. So let's go to the example that I brought with me today. I'll play the original song. There's a song called The Handsomest Man from a New England funk band called Pencilgrass. And then I'll play the new beat that I made with it, and we'll go from there.
Interest you when your neck sparkles as you twirl.
See, there's a lot of horns, there's guitars, there's keyboards, there's a pretty muddy vocal going on there. There's a lot of work to actually make some space to make this be able to work in a new song. So that's our original. This is the track I made up for today, sampling that same piece. Also featuring a freestyle by my man Prem Rock, so we have some vocals to work with, so we can really take a look at this.
Not sure if I like it or I love it, but I know I don't hate it. Celebrate it, put it all together for genetic mutations. Salutations, nice to meet you, other pleasantries. Toast to that, like now's Dravi. Or close door. Yamas, they say that out in Greek coast. I know because I've been, bro. TV syndication, dude, plays my speakers. I'd rather have some vinyl on it and some sneakers.
is my main sample that I grabbed from the song. It's a lot of guitars. We got some horns in there. There's actually a little bit of a vocal in there. So, we need to clear some space. And I started off by filtering everything below about 380, 385. This creates some space for right next door. This is our filtered sample track. This is our split bass. So this is the same song, everything's from there, but here I've low pass filtered at about the same spot, at about 370 or so, and then just a little bit of the jump just down at the bottom. Now this is the live bass, but this is the bass that we want to keep in there, and links back up with the main sample. Now we got a full range sample, but I can provide my faders, I got a little saturation on this, I can affect it separately from the original, and you'll see, if I filter this all the way down super low, yeah, we still got the bottom, and we got that sub, but there's a gap in our frequency response. So that's why my filter point is more up here.
Just like shelters, one take.
Alright, we're gonna move on pretty quick here. We're gonna talk about the mid-range quickly. Most of the instruments you'll find in the sample will reside in the mid-range, along with obviously the song's vocals. This can cause a real estate concern, but generally samples in this frequency range are there on purpose, so you're not likely to be using broad stroke removal techniques. This is a place for EQ and compression, and the situation will dictate the best tool. As with anything else, there are two approaches to EQ, corrective and artistic. Depending on the quality of the sample source, there may be a need to notch out offending frequencies with I am notching out, again, right around 350, and in this case, that's because I take that out. Now we're starting to get a little bit of masking. He's got a baritone voice, so we really need that in there. Now speaking of artistic EQ, next door on this sample hits track, I've got a boost, healthy boost up around 2K. That adds that little woof sound. Now I'm EQing this as a whole. This is a whole piece. This is me taking the sample and making this an instrument as opposed to thinking about which of the instruments inside the sample I'm EQing. And I've got that boosted up. You bring the track back here. Without that sample falls back in there. But I want those hits. I want that woof to be there. So see how that jumps out a little bit more. Now speaking of compression, compression is a great tool, obviously, to keep things in place, as we know, but when you're dealing with samples, these things are already mixed and mastered, so you may need to do a little bit less compression than you normally would. But certain things like multiband compression, we'll see on that same sample hits track, I've got a multiband here that is triggered from Prem's voice, and now in the same range, from about 350 to 1.6K, again, the main bulk of where his voice is, I'm triggering the multiband from the sidechain from his voice, and again, to create a little more space for him.
On Chrome Store. They say that I'm very close. I know because I've been, bro.
With that
TV syndication didn't place my speakers.
Again, we're getting some
vinyl
mask
on
in there.
and
So
some
with
sneakers
that,
that were kind of fresh. Don't wear no steel.
that with
On
the
Chrome
track.
Store.
Now, the sample hits track is peeking over with that 2K bump that added there for that presence, but the rest of the sample is sitting back where we want it to allow Prem to sit directly on top of where he needs
Don't
to
wear
be.
no steel toe.
Let's talk about the high end quickly. I know we're running out of time. 1 minute? All right, we'll get into high end and introduction, and then we're out of here. When you're dealing with the high frequencies, a lot of the same rules apply as the mid-range. So you're not generally going to split it out like you would the bottom. You can use a multi-band processor if your crash cymbals are really hidden, or if your hi-hats are kind of poking out. Or another great tool for that is the de-esser. But you want to be careful. In some cases, the hi-hats may be part of the sample groove. In this example, I wanted that beat on the hi-hat. So there's no programmed hi-hats in this track. It's just that. So again, mixing is musical. Use your ears and listen to the song that you're mixing. You're mixing the song, not the sample. Noise reduction. A lot of samples are pulled from vinyl. So some people want that crackle still in there. That's part of that warmth. I'm one of those people. So you want to check with your artist. You want to check with your producer and see if that's there on purpose. If not, you can notch with an EQ, or you can filter that out. In conclusion, samples are a great way to add impact, vibe, and texture to a song. They can often be the primary component of a new work. Making these enormous puzzle pieces fit into a new song in a sonically pleasing way can be a great challenge for a mixer, but a musical ear and the knowledge of using the right tool in the right situation can wrangle these pieces into an essential, coherent element of bigger-than-life production. Thank you.
Surely there will be questions out there.
I got one question that you said.
You need to use the mic because it's being recorded, so you'll be on track.
Hey man, so you on the bass sample, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said you ran it through a filter,
Mm-hmm.
right? You said very minimal compression. How is so clean? How is it so clean? Why does it sound so good? What else did you do to it besides filtering that sample? The bass sample.
Well, I've got a little bit of a hump at 71 hertz. I want, this is rap music, this is hip hop music, so the bottom is critical, and I've got a little bit of a notch at there. But if I bypass my EQ, so that's without the filter. So that's obviously you hear that's
There's no gate. There's
that's
nothing
the
else on
band.
it?
No, that gated sound, that's the chop. I'm chopping that sample, so that's the
So that's you.
Yes.
That was you. Okay.
Yes. And you'll see, I've got some compression on here. I like to squash my bottom, my low end, and then with this magneto here, I got some saturation on it for that nice
It
force.
sounds good. It's warm, but it's still like, it's a good sample, but it's clean as fuck.
Thank you.
Kind of correction. Don't wear no.
Any other question?
Thanks for your demo. One problem I've run into a lot in this kind of production and engineering is when I have one or more samples that already have some pretty wet reverb on them,
Yeah.
and different reverbs, and they just don't mesh. I was wondering if you encounter that and what kind of techniques you have in the situation.
A very common tool for that, which you might see a lot, and this obviously, everything goes for what is available and per song, what the sample is, but an envelope shaper, where you can bring down your release, because as you're compressing, that's going to bring up the reverb tail. Actually, as you compress, then you bring everything back up. But something like an envelope shaper can go a long way with that. If you're in a DAW system and you have the sample right in your tracks, as I do, some people, or if you're on MP, you can fade the tail. You can use fades and fade the tail of your sample. There's also, there's some software, like there's a Deverb plugin that I have, which actually does a pretty decent job. Technology's gotten to the point now. Years ago, you couldn't do that. It would just jack up your signal. But now, those Deverb plugins will do a good job for you. And sometimes, you gotta go with what you have. But that's part of the fun too. The reverb, make that part of your track. Maybe that's what it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.